What up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the One Unknown Games podcast. This is episode 155. How amazing is your Steam Deck? Because we're going to be talking about the Steam Deck. I'm your boy, NinjaTrixta, aka Adrian. I reversed my own name to the Twitch name, but I'm always, today we're back to normal. Alex is back. How's it going, man?
Good. What's up? I'm back. I came back from the dead, unfortunately.
This is time number three? I mean, you're fairly proficient at it now. I mean, it's not just something you do.
Yeah.
It is something you can.
I'm like Jesus Christ, right? Every year.
Gosh, I don't know. Every year. Well,
it's true. You know what I mean? I'm like Jesus. I'm like, wow. Every year. Wow, man. Wow.
We are back. I know we had a couple episodes without you. We talked about One Piece. Ehe was on here. We reviewed the One Piece movie, and then before that, we did our game of the year. Which I guess we can also just ask you before we kind of get into anything. Like, what was your game for 2023 or 2022? Sorry, yeah, 2022. What was your kind of favorite game personally?
That's a good question, actually. I don't know if I have an answer for that because there's a lot of good games that came out in 2022, as we know. But if I'm thinking about the games that stuck out to me, that's like, oh, that's the one. I really can't tell you what it might be. I'm actually struggling to remember what I played last year.
For us, it was. I think I know we did Elden Ring. That was the one for me. But
yeah, I think it's gonna be Vampire Survivors actually.
That's a good No one. We actually didn't. Yeah. No one said Vampire Survivor. I think Ehe was on Monster Hunter Rise or / Sunbreak, and then Inu was Sound Voltex, and then me and Soul were Elden Ring. So that's that's a good round because honestly, I saw someone. A streamer that I like, they do a lot of fighting games, but they were actually playing Vampire Survivors for the first time like a couple weeks ago, and they got addicted. Like 4 of their streams, nothing but like Vampire Survivors for 8. Yeah. They were just getting everything, and it was good to see because, like I said, I like watching that game. I can't play it that as well, even though you don't need a lot of skill to play it or anything. But I just like the sound effects. I just like listening to it's like slot machines, man. There's some addiction to it.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely, to me, I mean, if you want to talk about it really quickly, to me, it has the same kind of like, what is it? The mental like response, the feedback that I get from games like Academy Dynasty, where like in Academy Dynasty, you just like, you start out really small and you're like picking up like thumbtacks and that kind of stuff. And you see like a book in the distance. I'm going to get that book. I'm going to get that book one day. And then you build up your category big enough and you finally roll over the book and you just feel really good. You're like, fuck yeah, I did it. And then you see like a person, I want to get that person. And then it's like repeats over and over again.
And it's to the point.
I was
going to say a lot of people, like they get to a point where they just say it's zen. You zone out because you're killing so many things so fast. The game is playing itself, right?
Well, if you get a good build eventually, yeah.
Yeah.
And when you first start out, like it's actually quite difficult, I would say. Like if you're doing a fresh save file and you don't have that many upgrades on you, because there are upgrades that persist for all your characters.
Right.
Is there's like less damage, like more speed, more health recovery, and those are upgrades that you get for all the characters that you have. And if you have none of those upgrades, like it can get pretty tricky. But like once you do enough runs, maybe you're not going to win every single run, and you probably won't actually when you first start out. But you build enough like currency, you get enough currency, and then you're gonna buy this upgrade, and once you buy all the upgrades, and then you're like rolling pretty smoothly, and that's when it gets like zen for you. So if you haven't put enough, I know you bought it. I don't think you didn't play too much of it. But
I didn't play too much of it because like I'm not good with like doing different builds and knowing what synergizes with each other and kind of like exploring that too much. Like that's just not my thing. But I mean, it's the game. It's on Game Pass. I don't know if it's still on Game Pass.
It's on Game Pass.
It's like super cheap, even if it's not on Game Pass. It's like $3.99. You can get it on mobile. You can get anywhere.
DLC dropped for it like a couple weeks ago. Actually,
they were playing like what was it, like Christmas levels? There was like a Japan theme level. There were like there were levels,
one level. It's just like one big map. Actually,
okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so there's DLC for that now. If you go to the Steam page for it, a lot of people I think are joking, but they're like, "Oh, I'm not gonna buy this game. I'm not gonna buy this on sale. I'm gonna wait for it to be full price because it's so cheap."
There was a lot of content just in terms of like unlocking the tarot cards and then unlocking each of the survivors.
The DLC itself is so cheap. And if you already own Vampire Survivors, I don't know if they're still doing it, but if you already own Vampire Survivors, which is necessary for the DLC, you get a discount on the DLC. So like,
Get discount on
yeah,
the get a discount on the DLC for a game that really doesn't need any more
it's really
discounts.
cheap, yeah.
It's four
But I
ninety
mean,
nine, like 499 yen, which I mean, I guess in USD that could be
like
anywhere but
3 to 50 or something, yeah,
350 or something. And the actual, if you get the bundle, that's 25% off. That comes with the Legacy of Moonspell, which you were saying I think is the
the DLC,
addition,
yeah,
the DLC, and that's just honestly 499 yen, then just goes up to 558 yen. Still cheap. That's $5
yeah.
probably, So if you're curious about it, if you've heard people talk about it, you can be playing for literally a month plus.
Yeah, I mean, so I did a lot of streams with it too. So Vampire Survivors doesn't have like a story or anything. Um, it's just one of those games that like kind of blew up a little bit over the summer when a lot of people were streaming it, and then I was like, oh, I'll check it out, and then I just kind of like got sucked into it and I played a lot of hours. So for me, that'd be my pick of 2022. Actually, Vampire Survivors was actually a game that kind of blew up among owners of the Steam Deck because it's such an easy game to run on the Steam Deck, and it's a pick up and play kind of thing. So
Exactly. And kind of transitioning into our topic. Once again, if you're listening to us on YouTube, go ahead and leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you found us there. And if you're listening via other means, iTunes, Google Play Podcasts, Spotify, anything like that, go ahead and leave a 5-star review and let us know what you think about the show. But moving on, of course, it was a game that even when I was watching someone on G4, they were playing their Steam Deck. Because Steam Deck was this thing where not everyone, of course, had a Steam Deck. And then when people would get a Steam Deck, it was like, oh snap, they got a Steam Deck. Like this is
yep.
like that's pretty awesome. What are you playing on it?
Mm.
And I'll never forget like just watching somebody on G4 playing it, and they were like, this dude, all he does is play Vampire Survivors.
So it's
Just
like a
fucking
$5 game.
4 hours later, was just playing Vampire
Yeah,
Survivors. You'd think he'd be
that's to
playing something
me.
different.
To me, that's funny because like it's really popular on Steam Deck. So it's like a 500, 600, depending on what model you get, like $700 console. You're
Yeah,
playing a
yeah.
$5 game.
You're playing, and because I
Yeah.
mean, and to get into the pricing of it a little bit, as you can see here on the screen, there are 3 options, and honestly, I feel like this is like when I was picking because you and me both have a Steam Deck now, and I looked at
Yeah.
this almost like as instead of getting a PS5, this is what I'm getting.
I bought a Steam Deck
I bought a
instead.
Steam
Yeah.
Deck instead because I saw like a lot of it. I saw more uses and benefits from it. Number one, just being the fact that how a lot of Switch owners play things in bed or just play on the
Hmm.
couch or something. And
Yeah.
the number one thing is you have your Steam backlog already there, and it's just a great way for me to finish the backlog off or work on one game before I go to sleep or something. But you have your 399 option with the 64 gig. eMMC internal storage. You get a carrying case with all of these things. You've got the
Yep.
256 for 529 USD. You've got the 512 for 649 USD. And honestly, whenever you get to these, the 2 other later options I listed, those both have the NVMe SSD internal storage, and I feel like
Right.
that's the one you should get, right? That's the if you have the little extra 2 spare, those are the 2 models. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it'll be. I mean, it's a little faster. I mean, one thing to keep in mind is all 3 models have a micro SD card slot, so
Exactly.
you can expand your storage that way. You can just like download games and save them to your SD. You have an SD card on your
Yeah. I have
SD deck, right?
I
Yeah.
actually have a 64 gig, so
Okay. I
that
have
came with
like a
something
I have like a
else.
512, I think, in mine. But the thing
Mhm.
is uh with a micro SD card, you're gonna get, like technically you're gonna get slower read speeds. In my experience, it's been pretty okay. It's not been really too slow. Some games are slower than others, obviously, just depending on like what you're loading in, what the game is doing. Um, but if a storage was a concern and you wanted to swap out your games really quickly, you could use the micro SD card slot to do that for you. Now, keep in mind, the cheapest Steam Deck is 64 internal gigabytes of storage. I actually don't recommend that, even if you are putting in gigantic micro SD cards.
Yeah,
That's because
the OS
uh,
itself is going to take up.
Well, that too, actually. But I don't know if you noticed this, but when you download, when you install the game on the Steam Deck, it
Mhm.
actually downloads the shaders. It pre-caches the shaders, uh, and so so it like runs smoother and that kind of stuff. It
Okay.
doesn't store. You can kind of do a hacky hack kind of thing to put the shaders on your micro SD card, but by default, the Steam Deck will put the shaders on internal storage. So if
Okay.
you're playing a lot of games, the shader like cache is actually going to eat into your memory like really badly. So
I
I
would
kind of
say
know.
like
Yeah,
because I have the 256 model and I
yeah.
have about 3 or 4 games. I have like a Metroidvania that's like 2 gigs, Final Fantasy 12, which is I think maybe 12 gigs, and then I actually installed One Piece Odyssey on there, 20 something gigs. I mean, you're gonna be able to fit a pretty good amount on there, but like you said, if you have that 64 gig, you're not gonna be able. That's like one game comfortably, honestly. And maybe that's the kind of the thing that I'm looking for when I play this is just only jumping between 1 or 2 games at a time and not really having a bunch installed on the system. You know what I mean?
I guess that's true. Yeah, if you're only playing 1 or 2 games, you could put them on your micro SD card, and then your shaders would comfortably fit on your internal storage. That's
Hmm.
perfectly fine. If you're only going to be playing 2 games at a time. When I first got it, actually, my Steam Deck, how many games do I have on there? I had like 10 games on there. Not because I was playing 10 games, but because it was a brand new device and I wanted to see how it
Just
ran.
kind of see how
All these
things run.
Yeah, so I was like, I'm gonna get put this on here and this on here, and now I've slimmed it down to like 4 games basically. But yeah.
I mean, it handles a lot of stuff, but I think one of the cool things about the games that I've found is that on the Steam page, it'll actually tell you like what's verified, what's not
Yep.
verified, and even better was the fact that on the Steam Deck itself, it has like out of all your library, the first category is just like
It's
this
verified or runs great on
verified
deck.
runs great
Yeah.
on deck. And I thought that that was
Yep.
just being able to see that, okay, out of the whatever 200 games I have or something, 100 plus of those are great on deck
Yeah,
was like
it's good to
reassuring.
see.
That's good to
Yeah.
see.
Also, a lot of games that aren't technically supported, or it says like what is it, like a middle compatible, like playable or
It's
whatever.
playable. It's usually like the
Uh,
text, right? That they say text
It'll
may
be the
not.
text, or it'd be like, oh, you have to invoke the keyboard, which isn't a big deal. It's
Yeah,
the
like the keyboard input might not be.
It's Steam plus X will bring up your keyboard. So if you ever have to type anything in, it's usually
Mhm,
stuff like player name. I noticed. So for example, Chrono Trigger, which runs great on the deck, by the way.
mhm.
Chrono Trigger isn't verified. It's playable, but not verified. And the reason why it's because you have to invoke the keyboard to type in into Chrono Trigger. And you're probably wondering like, what do we have to type in Chrono Trigger? It's the name. You have to name your characters.
Mhm, mhm.
And that's it. Like that's the only time that you have to invoke the keyboard. But like I said, it's the Steam button plus the X button, and then that'll pop up the keyboard, and you can type in whatever you want, and then you can close it.
Yeah, and I mean, in
And
terms
that's
of
it. Yeah.
just like even on the website, the fact that they're showing, there's some games that you're like, oh, okay, whatever. Hollow Knight, you expect that to run pretty well on this device, but when you look at there's something like, oh yeah, you can play Tales of Arise, something that you feel like, oh snap, that's like a larger chunk of a game, right, in your mind. And sometimes some things you have to tweak. You might have to tweak a little bit of here and there. Honestly,
You have
for
to check
One
the
Piece,
settings. Yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
for One Piece Odyssey, all I tweaked was I just brought it down to 30 FPS and that eliminated everything because it would have 60 and then it would jump down to 40 and I'm like, okay, just let's just cap it and see what happens,
Yeah.
and that was
Yeah.
it.
So here's the thing about playing games on a device like this, or even I guess a mid tier computer, is like what's worse than a low frame rate is a fluctuating frame rate, because
Yeah.
you'll go from like 60 and you're like, okay, and your brain is kind of like used to the animation speed and everything.
Hmm.
But once it kind of hitches a little bit, it's really distracting, and it goes back up, and then it hitches back down, it goes back up. So if that ever happens to you, I mean, it doesn't need to be on a Steam Deck, but just cap it at like the low, I guess the lowest that it would ever go, and then
Yeah.
you'll have a much more enjoyable experience. So for example, I was playing Yakuza Kiwami 2 on my Steam Deck,
Hmm.
which
Hmm.
was able to hit 60 most of the time. But as you run through some of the busier parts of town, maybe in fights actually too, it would drop to like 50 and at times 45.
Right, right.
Which isn't like too terrible, because
It's
it
not
jumps back it
terrible.
jumps back up to 60 like right away. But with the fluctuating frame rate, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna cap it. So I capped it at 40. And that's actually been pretty good for me. So a lot of people actually do recommend capping your games at 40 instead of 30, because 40 is closer to 60 than it is in not if you not raw numbers. I'm talking. There's like
I
some
mean,
weird
it
math
is
thing that
technically,
like
yeah.
yeah, but like, well, that's true. Yes, but that's true. There was like some weird math thing that maybe someone at Valve came up like showed on the internet, but like a game running at 40 frames per second will be like X times faster than, or it's closer to 60 frames per second in terms of just like how it feels than well,
Yeah,
obviously 30, but
I mean, because
yeah.
we don't usually see that as an option. A lot of places like, oh yeah, you want
Well,
to run
because
at
displays
40,
don't, yeah, because
displays
is
aren't
the thing.
usually
40,
doing
yeah. If you
40.
buy a TV, it's gonna be 60 hertz, right? Unless you're
Right.
buying like a gaming TV, like the ones from Nvidia or whatever. So TVs are 60, monitors are 120. Now they're like, well, they're like 165 or 240, whatever, right? But
Right.
40 hertz is a really weird refresh rate.
It's a weird refresh rate, but
Yeah.
this screen, honestly, like I feel it's not an OLED screen. It's not like you're looking at, a Vita or even like, the Switch OLED model, but it's a nice screen because it's a nice size, and it doesn't feel like there's a lot of ghosting or anything like that. It's nice. It's a nice screen. And going back to the games, if you're ever curious, you can go on the website or even on Steam, of course, but they have a list of recently verified games. And what a lot of people don't realize, and something I didn't realize, is even some multiplayer games like Apex or uh,
FF14, man. Yeah.
FF14.
FF14, yeah.
And what else do we have? Aliens Fireteam Elite. That's pretty big.
Phasmophobia is on there.
Yeah,
That's so
Phasmophobia.
funny
Like,
to me. I thought about playing Phasmo on the Steam Deck because I'm like, oh, it's not scary because it's tiny, tiny
because it's
screen.
tiny.
But
It's not scary
yeah,
because it's tiny. They're like,
the ghosts are actually tiny
you,
though.
you know what? You can play it in your closet now.
Oh yeah,
You can
that's
add
true.
all the fear
You can play it
factor.
in broad daylight in the middle of a busy city and not be afraid at all.
Well, I
Yeah,
mean, you have
yeah.
games like Elden Ring, that, and of course that's a major title that you've heard of, and really kind of like these like we know Sony's been doing more stuff on PC, so even you have access to both the Spider-Man games, God of War, you got Stray, you have a lot of different titles on here, and it just makes you feel like, oh snap, um, you know, I don't
Mm.
need to have specifically a console anymore. If it like this will run Witcher 3, it's running a lot of stuff that yeah, you
What,
would
what
run on
it's
console.
it's a computer
It's a
basically, yeah.
computer. It
So
is a
it'll run
computer
computer games.
outside of
I got
Mario.
well, that's well,
And we won't get in. Well,
yeah.
technically, I mean, if you here's the thing. If you own the actual games, then yes, you
If
may
you know what you're
emulate.
doing,
And
you can run Switch games, yeah, if you know what you're
yeah,
doing. But
yeah. Other than that,
I gotta ask actually, I gotta ask now that you own one, that if you put some time into playing a Steam Deck, based on when the Steam Deck first was announced, and they were like, hey, we're making a portable computer. It's kind of like a Switch, I guess. Now that you actually own one, and you played it, do you think your opinion on a Steam Deck has changed at all based on when you first heard about it to actually owning one and playing it now?
I mean, I guess I have to say that the first time because honestly, I didn't even care about it when I first heard about it. I thought like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool because before Valve had kind of done some, what was it, the Steam machines, and then we had like they have their VR
The
headset, and
Yeah.
they've kind of dabbled with a lot of different things, that their own controller, and I never really like, I don't know. I know that they don't really go half in on these things, but it didn't really like hit me like, oh, this is something that I want, especially because how rare it was. Like you had to kind of get into the queue, and then
Mm,
there was a long time where you just couldn't. I mean, it's not readily available. It's just as rare as a PS5 at that point. But and there
mm.
weren't a lot of reviews out. There weren't a lot of people who had gotten it. But the people who did get it, you'd see them, they like, I got my Steam Deck, but they would never say, oh snap, I'm playing this on it, or it's doing this, right? It wasn't until I think around Tokyo Game Show that I kind of started seeing more people getting it in their hands, and they had that demo booth, so a lot of people got to touch it and give like impressions about it. And I was like, okay, well, this thing has like a lot more potential, like of things I can do, because it does have Linux, or you can install an operating system, Windows or whatever on it. So I started looking at it from that point of view and the things that I could do with it. And yeah, it just made more sense to me, right? And I saw more people, like I said, on G4. I saw people holding it and playing it. and genuinely giving great positive news about it. And I won't lie, this was like an impulse buy for me because I didn't know if I'd be able to get one in Japan again. I know you in Canada, you could just like order it, you know, there's no lottery or anything like that, but here in Japan, it's still kind of like
You
get
have to
it.
get into the queue for it. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to queue for it. So I was like, I'd rather just get it and not have to worry about trying to get it later on.
Oh, so it was kind of like fear of missing out for you
It
then.
was fear of missing. Yeah, it's a little bit of fear of missing out and wanting to be in the cool kids club. But I will say, when I touched it, the first time I opened it, the case, I opened this case and I look at it, and I was like, this is a freaking large Game Gear. But then when
I
I
mean,
took
it
it,
does kind of look
it,
like one. Yeah,
it
I gotta
yeah.
agree.
But when I
Yeah.
took it out, like I actually lifted it out, I was like, holy crap, this feels good to hold.
Yeah.
From then on, I'm like, yo, I'm sold. That was it. You
Yeah.
know?
I gotta agree with you actually. Holding it, I was playing it today on my lunch break. I mean, you know, I just play it. I pick it up every. I was playing in I have been playing in bed almost every night
Yeah.
actually. Um, I actually really like how it feels in my hand. It's just weirdly comfortable. The grips are designed extremely well.
It's basically
I
like
actually
a
find it.
controller or
Yeah,
actual controller grips. Yeah.
I actually do find the Steam Deck more comfortable to hold. Is how it fits in my hand
Hmm.
than my Xbox Elite controller, which is
It's
weird. Yeah,
it's that's it's not too.
it's really nice. Yeah.
It reminded me of like when I used to hold the PSP, like the 1000 series, like how it had those little nudges, not nudges, but like on the back, you know, it wasn't flat. The 2000 and 3000 series are just flat, you know what I mean? But
Yeah, right. They're really thin, actually. Like the
and
Switch is actually really thin. You pick up your Switch like right now, compared to you're like, wow, this thing
it
feels
it
bad,
it's
actually.
not, yeah, it's not even ergonomic because like the Switch, the
Yeah,
more you realize it, it's just
yeah,
designed for you to actually have the controllers out. You know what I mean? That feels
yeah.
good.
I think so. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have. I mean, funny story about my Switch actually. So I brought my Switch to Canada.
Hmm.
So, well, I mean, just to back up a little bit. So I was like, well, like you, I joined the queue for the Steam Deck in Japan. So in parts of Asia, you cannot like, well, in Asia at all, you cannot buy the Steam Deck through Steam directly,
Right,
uh,
right.
through Valve directly. You have to use their Asian distributor, which is
Komodo.
Komodo. I keep saying Kodomo for some reason. Well, I know why, but
The kid.
yeah. So they're using a company called Kodo. Fuck.
Komodo.
Komodo, yeah, as their Asian distributor. So I joined the queue, and I actually got the email from them being like, "Hey, your Steam Deck is ready." But this was like days before I was about to hop on my flight to go back home.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, there's no way that I can pay for my Steam Deck and have it to like ship and get it delivered to me before I go back. I don't want a Steam Deck sitting on my doorstep for, you know, for a while, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So I canceled my reservation. The day that the news broke that they're like, hey, Steam Decks are shipping on this, like on this, I'm like, no, I'm not gonna make it. So I canceled. I emailed them, canceled my reservation, and I immediately went and I bought myself a Steam Deck from the Canadian Steam store. Just got it shipped to my house in Canada. So I didn't have my Steam Deck with me on the flight or anything, so I brought my Switch because like, man, I'll play Pokemon or whatever. I'll even when I'm back home, I'll play Pokemon. This will be fun, right? I didn't play Pokemon on the flight. I like slept and I watched movies. And then once I got home, I was just playing games on my Steam Deck, and I did not play my Switch at all. I didn't play a minute on my Switch. I brought my Switch to Canada and took it back and didn't play Switch for a single moment of time. And I don't know. I do this all the time with game consoles. I've done it with PSPs. I've done it with Vitas and 3DSs. I don't play them. But I
No,
actually did play
I've
my
done the
Steam
same
Deck. So
thing.
yeah,
I've taken
yeah.
specifically to play one game and barely touched it or never touched it. But I mean, this was that perfect moment that you had. You know, whenever you have new technology, you have that little honeymoon phase for sure, and you're like, I
Mm.
gotta try something. I gotta try this on it, see what it can do. And there was probably no better time to actually get it and play around with it and just test out all the games and actually finish some games. I know you went through all the Yakuza. Well, Yakuza
Well,
one
not
through
all of them.
four,
A lot of
like
Yakuza games.
like
Yeah.
1 through 4. That's
Well,
or
two, four,
two, four.
two,
Okay,
three, four. Yeah,
that's still a lot. That's three. It's three
that's three
Yakuza
Yakuza
games you
games.
played
Yeah.
comfortably on your Steam Deck, and it's like I said, like I've been enjoying it, and just being able to be like, oh, okay, especially if you're a streamer and you want to do a little bit of off-screen grinding, like we were talking about last, I don't know about last week, but You were talking about like, you had to do some grinding for what was
For
it?
Dragon Quest.
Dragon Quest. Yeah. Like you can
Yeah.
comfortably just take this in the bed or wherever you want to do, whatever, and just,
Yeah.
every once in a while, maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes on a lunch break, get your grind in, put it down, and that's saved, that's saved to the cloud. I mean, it really does feel like this is the concept that the Vita with crossplay, cross progression, and then the Switch with, you can have it plugged up to your monitor
Yeah, you
or
can
your
dock it.
TV, you
Yeah.
can dock it. This is both of those things combined. This is like the fruition. This is that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I gotta say, for people who own a lot of games on Steam, it's a really good console. Like it's like buying a console and having games for it immediately. Do you know what I mean? Like,
It's already. I mean, it's
I
already
guess,
there.
yeah. I gotta say though, the killer feature for me, like the one good thing about the Steam Deck that I cannot live without now, is the ability to suspend your game.
Which I had the weirdest
And
experience with. The
I
timer
know.
kept going.
Sorry, what?
The timer in one of my RPGs kept going. I
Oh,
suspended the game.
that happens. Yeah,
I
I
got
know.
like 38 hours in One Piece
It'll
now.
fix itself. It'll fix itself eventually. But
Oh, okay, okay.
um, so I know if you're a heavy console gamer, this is obviously a feature that you guys have been enjoying for quite some time, and it's a good feature. It's suspending your game. It's like being in the middle of anything and being like, oh, I gotta do this. Just like, oh, I'm tired. I want to do this. You could sleep your console, which is a thing that we've had since PS4, right? Yes.
PSP.
Well, yeah, you're right. No, yeah, PSP,
Yeah.
DS, even D3DS.
DS,
So
yeah.
it's an amazing feature, and being able to now do it for PC games is like the best. So actually, really helped me get through the Yakuza game, because I would be doing sub stories in Yakuza, running around the city and like whatever, and then I'd be like, you know what? I'm tired. I'm sleepy. I don't want to do this right now. So I would just like hit sleep, and then I would sleep, right? So I'm actually going through Yakuza 5 now on my PC, my computer, because it just doesn't run very well on the Steam Deck. So like I have to play it on the PC. And I was like, last night, I was like in the middle of like a bunch of stuff, and I was like, oh my god, I'm tired. I don't want to do this right now. But I would have wanted, I just wanted to suspend my game so I could do whatever and then come back and jump right back into it. But I had to like, oh, well, where's the save point? And then I had to go save. And I had to go exit the menu, then close the game. And I know that if I wanted to like get back into it, I have to like, it sounds really first world problem, but I have to launch the game
Yeah.
and go through like all the splash openings, then load my game, then come out of my save point. I'm like, oh, where was I again? I don't want to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I want to
No,
just
no,
like
it's true.
suspend it right where I was. Yeah.
I mean, I'm the whole thing of just being able to suspend it literally takes a lot of stress out of, like you said, just having to start up. For me, like get up, go to my PC, and play the game on PC. Especially like after a long day of work or whatever, I can just I'm just gonna play for a little bit, put it down, maybe
Yeah.
maybe like an hour later pick it back up for another 10, 15 minutes. You'd be surprised how many small little gaming sessions you can get in doing it.
Yeah.
I will say
Like,
like
do I sound lazy? Like being, I don't want to
no,
boot my
no,
game up.
no. I mean, I've because I've experienced it too. I'm like, I don't want to get up and you know turn my
Yeah.
PC on or whatever, or just start it up there. And it's actually one of the reasons I don't do remote play. Which
Oh, because they turn your PC on.
it turns the PC on, and sometimes it doesn't connect for me. Like I don't know if it's just something a setting I need to adjust, but it doesn't always connect. And then like the game is running on my PC, but not on my Steam Deck, and I have to go shut the game down on the PC, and I'm like, whatever. But I mean, it is a feature that is there. You can remote play, which is pretty cool. As long as it probably isn't bugged or anything. It's just me. Got to change something. And I think that's cool. Like if you don't want to install the game on your piece on your actual Steam Deck, you can remote play it. That's another option. And then if you get the deck, like the dock deck, I like the fact that you really can just turn it into like your Switch. You can hook it up to your TV, a monitor, whatever, and you can use and this is anytime. You can always use a Bluetooth keyboard, mouse, or your controller, your existing PlayStation, Xbox, whatever. And I think it's just so versatile, right? It's a PC.
Yep.
We know that, but just knowing that it's that versatile, and you have those features just makes it feel like, you know what? They put thought into this and they cared. I don't feel like they skimped out anywhere. It's doing what I want it to do 90% of the time, outside of taking a long time to charge the battery.
I mean, you're probably using the official charger, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Are you
still
charging while
take a
playing?
while. No, no, I just let it sit and charge. It was still like what, 3 hours or something like that.
It can be weird, yeah, depending on when, like, what you're charging from. But yeah, I mean, mine's fully charged actually, but yeah. Um, I think if there's one thing to be critical of the Steam Deck, it's that it has kind of, well, not Switch battery life, but that's to be expected because it's not a Switch.
I think it's like what,
So,
four or less
well, they
hours,
say like up to
depending.
4 hours,
Yeah,
but depending on what you're playing and what your refresh rate and what your frame rate is. So when I was playing Yakuza, I would get like maybe 2.5, maybe 3 hours. And then I would just plug it in and I would just play while I was plugged in. But yeah, battery life's not like amazing. So if you're counting on your Steam Deck to take you through like a long flight, you're gonna have to like charge it
charge it. Yeah, you're gonna
somehow
have to
on the plane. Yeah,
find a charger or really just
like an
play the.
outlet. If your airplane has like there's an outlet at your seat, plug in, like steal it from your neighbor or whatever. And be like, I'm using my Steam Deck right now. So
Dude, I'm
yeah.
just looking at the website and it's some weird. This is some weird, freaky stuff. Kind of like, okay, so it just has like use your deck as a PC because it is one. And I'm just looking
Yep.
at it, and the guy just has the dock and he's got the Steam Deck hooked up and he's running, Steam OS on it or the Linux on it. But he just has it. He's just literally using. Just looks like he's playing on a PC. It's interesting
Yeah,
in
dude.
that, and then you go
Yeah.
scroll down and it's like plays nice with all your accessories, literally
Arcade
two
sticks. Yeah.
arcade sticks playing on this. I mean, it's at least a larger screen, but playing Guilty Gear Strive on it, and then of course, plug it into your TV and go play Control on it. I mean, that's just really versatile. And like I said, it's like the realization of a lot of stuff that maybe people have talked about in the past finally kind of being here. It almost makes me wish that, and then this is, I don't know, it almost makes me wish that Nintendo would just get into the software game only. They make too much money off hardware, but if they just went the route of Sega, we'd be in perfect harmony. This would be it. That would be it.
Well, yeah, I think like I think the Switch and the Steam Deck are both realizations of the same kind of idea, but they're just executed a little bit differently.
Yeah,
So like the Switch is, I mean, it does what it does, and it does what it does really well,
it
actually.
does.
I think Nintendo is focused on a very specific type of experience and a very specific, like, I guess, consumer.
Yeah,
Um,
I wouldn't want to give this to my kid. Like, I don't think
yeah,
I wouldn't want, like, I know Nintendo does like drop test, and they do it for a Steam Deck too, but I just can't imagine if I drop the Steam Deck.
yeah,
Fudge.
I actually I did drop it one. I panicked. I was like, "Oh my god, are you okay, baby?" Like, yeah,
Maybe if I drop a Switch, I'm
yeah.
just like,
It's fine.
whatever, kind of a little bit, but
Yeah,
it is a
but
different market, like you said.
I mean, so both screens docked. Well, I mean, what I'm trying to say, the device screen, they're both 720p, right? Well, the Steam Deck is actually 800p.
Yeah, it's 1200 by 800, I believe.
Yeah, so it's a 16:10 ratio. So, whatever, that's cool. I don't care. But let's just say they're both 720p for all intents and purposes.
Hmm. Hmm.
So they're both like the same resolution. The Steam Deck is bigger, but in terms of like what their processing power is, they're on like different sides of the scale, I guess.
No, no, they totally
So
are. I mean, you've got
yeah,
a what I got the specs on stream, but Zen 2 4C. I'm not even gonna add all this, but
it's like a
it
modified computer APU basically, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
which is
Actually,
cool,
16
which
gigs
is
of
which
onboard
is
RAM
good.
too.
Yeah, it's pretty solid. So it's capable of playing pretty much everything at least I would say medium
Medium.
settings at a respectable frame rate, which is 30, 40, sometimes 60,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it can handle pretty much any, like, don't buy a Steam Deck and expect to put all your games on high and then you're getting a solid 60 frames per second, because it's not going to happen for like a lot of games
Yeah.
actually. So but if you do purchase one, and you set your expectations like properly, like you probably won't be too disappointed. So the one thing I got to ask though, actually, and I know because this is something we've talked about on the podcast a couple of times, especially like in with your transition to PC gaming. is we've both been playing and enjoying PC games at fairly high frame rates and high refresh rates. So we're talking like 120 hertz or 144 hertz or higher with matching frame rates. And we both agree that it's a very smooth and like it's a fun experience to play at a game at that high high frame and high refresh rate, right? Going to a Steam Deck, which is you're like happy that you're just like, oh, it's 60. That's cool. I'm happy with that. So jumping down to, back down to 60 frames per second or whatever, does it bother you at all?
I don't know. Like it. So when I did it for a Metroidvania, like I've been running it at 60, and it runs smooth. When I dropped it down to 30, it like
It felt bad, right?
it felt bad. It felt
Yeah.
like anytime you see a difference in what's happening on the screen, you're just like, oh God, no. And I cranked it back up. I'm like, forget the battery life. I need this at 60.
Yeah.
But then I did the same thing for One Piece. And like I said, it actually fixed the kind of jump ups and jump downs from the frame rate.
Yeah.
And that's an RPG. So it's not fast moving or anything like that. And for that one, I'm like, okay, 30 FPS, and I'll try the 40 FPS like you talked about, was fine, was 100% fine. When I'm typically playing on PC and it's like, 120 FPS or 144 or something, sometimes my mind doesn't really, like, I don't really, like, grasp it that much, like that to 60. But now when I look at 30, it's a completely different world. Like 30, it's hard. But 60
30 is peasant frame rate.
30 is some peasant. 30 is even bro, 30 is like hurting somebody. You're like, what is this?
Yeah.
But like you said, you can run most things comfortably and you can set it at that frame rate because it's not a large screen. I find that it just doesn't bother me that much. You know what I mean? Like the game looks good, it runs fine, and maybe in somewhere in my mind, I'm making it like an exception. Like, okay, this isn't a full big rig, but I'm getting what I'm getting, and it's just great.
I think like what's arguably more important than the number of your frame rate, so 60 or 120 or whatever,
consistency.
It's consistency. You probably might not have known this or even realized this or thought about it, but for example, Final Fantasy 7, like OG 7, and Chrono Cross or whatever, you know what frame rate those games run at? Like 15. Like really low, man.
Us walking.
Yeah, but you like probably
you
like
wouldn't know it, yeah.
But it's locked. It's locked 15, right? So I think if you were to jump straight to it, you're like, well, this is like playing a game in slow motion. Like you'll feel it. But I would argue that if you sat down for maybe 1 to 2 hours and you're just playing that game, you would probably forget about it after. I mean, assuming you're not laser focused on if you were constantly thinking about it, like, oh, I can't stand this. But
it's the same effect of like, as long as you're not seeing something next side by side, you won't notice. Like,
yeah, I think I told you this before, but I was playing. I was trying to play. I believe it was like Tales of Berseria, which runs at 60 actually on console.
Okay.
Or I was playing some game. I can't remember what it was. I was playing some game on PC at like 60 or higher, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna do some extra grinding in another game. So I turned on my PS4, and I booted Dragon Quest 11. Actually, I was playing some other game at a different frame rate, and having two games run at two different frame rates like hurt my head. Like I got a headache. I was like, oh my God, I can't deal with this right now. Like this is really hurting me.
It was
yeah.
I mean, it's not gonna be a fun process when you have to compare something. It's like in VR, right? VR 60.
Yeah, but like once you're only doing that one thing, then it's kind of okay. Like when I was playing through FF7 remake, that's 30 frames per second on PS4, right?
Right.
I told you this before when the game came out like 2 years ago, but I was like, I remember my first hour or 30 minutes like playing it. I was like, holy shit, this is a slow game. But then after a while, I'm just playing FF7 now. So,
okay. Well, I don't know. I think that kind of covers most of the things about the Steam Deck. I mean, I would say that the best thing is that as complicated as it can get, like you can make it it's relatively simple. When you boot it up, it's going to take you to essentially get connected to online, log into your Steam account, and voila. Yeah, I mean, if you just want that bare minimal experience, that's cool. You may never actually even switch to desktop mode. You might not even know
Yeah,
there
you
was
don't
a
have
desktop
to.
mode. You don't have to,
You
you know.
you could. Have you done anything in desktop mode?
I haven't. I haven't. I still
I've
need to
used it
install
a couple
Epic.
times.
I need to install my
I
Epic Game Store. And
I what did I do? I have to use desktop mode to set up my emulators.
and that too. I mean, like,
By the way, I mean, if you want me to set up or you get Xenosaga running on that for you, like Xenosaga runs like really
I
well.
do own the game. I don't
Yeah,
know if I want to replay Xenosaga. Well, of all the Xenosagas, 1 and 3 are my favorite. Like 1 and 3, I think everyone can like, but
everyone hates 2, man.
2 is we've talked about it before. 2 need to go and just
2 is weird because like the battle system sucked
very
and the
badly.
character designs kind of are weird.
They're yeah,
they're weird,
but you
but like
know,
they got redeemed in 3 because you know Shion looks great.
Shion looks
Shion
good.
looks
Shion
great.
looks
Yeah.
great. I mean, they solved the problem. They figured out what we all wanted. Yet they only make Cosmos figures. I'm sure
That's
she has a
true.
figure somewhere. I'm sure Shion
Well,
has a figure
it's because
somewhere.
Cosmos is. I think Cosmos has guest appearances in Xenoblade.
And Xenoblade, yeah, she does. She does.
Yeah, so they're like, oh, let's re have this character. But it's Shion, like Shion's not a. What would Shion be? You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know. She has her little, was it electric shield stun gun? Stun. It's not a gun,
thing,
but
like the
stun shield. Is that?
yeah, and it also she also used it to like punch people to death. Yeah.
Oh, she was. Oh man.
But you guys, if you guys haven't ever played Xenosaga, you probably should.
Another promotion for it. Honestly, I would like to use it to, you know, if I can ever get some of these games on sale, which I can get them from used. Something like a Xenoblade 3 or whatever, like, because I mean we've talked about this earlier and we've seen this happening. A lot of the later Switch releases, Bayonetta 3, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, unfortunately are suffering from, you know, the limitations of the Switch and are having those frame rate issues, or even I don't know what happened in the case of Pokemon. I can't believe it's a hardware limitation on there, but it could be. Who knows? It could be just them programming. I really don't know.
That's also probably it's software as well.
So you know, a lot of those things are fixed on the better emulation and the, you know, the things that come with that. So yeah, honestly, I'm thinking if I'm for games I want to stream that are on the Switch, it feels better if I might just play them on the Steam Deck and get that captured.
I mean, if you want to set up,
honestly,
you want to set up Yuzu and get the means to play Switch games on it. Yeah, so.
The means to play it. But yeah, I think that's gonna do it for us this week. We want to keep it a little bit shorter, but do you have anything you want to say in closing, either about the Steam Deck or just I don't know, where people can find you, anything like that?
Sure. Yeah, I guess you can follow me at what is my name, Root24. It's on screen if you're watching, but if you're listening, it's Root, like ROUTE24. I don't know what I'm streaming tomorrow actually. So I was on a break, I guess, and I'm back. I'm probably gonna play something really, really chill, and then I'll play something like weird for a little bit. Probably. Well, you know what? I'm gonna play something, and then when Persona 3 comes out. I'll play Persona 3.
You can always play Forspoken. I think Forspoken comes out this week. I still don't know if if I'm down with that game or not down with that game, but it's coming out either this week or next week. And then I think Dead Space is next month.
Oh yeah, the remake.
Yeah,
reboot?
The remake. Reboot, remake.
Yeah,
remaster.
Reboot. So I don't think it's a remaster. Wait, is it a remaster?
I mean, it's essentially I think they kept most everything the same, but then they overhauled the graphics. They changed some of the character, like, I don't know if they changed the models. They changed the models a little bit, yeah. I would say remake. Maybe remake sounds best.
Oh yeah, I got a PS5. Did I tell you?
Yeah, you did. You did.
Oh yeah,
I don't know what you're gonna play on
it. It's in the box. It's been sitting on the floor for days. I
don't know what you're gonna play on it. I mean, you can
now 16. Yeah, 16 and 7 too. That's
16. Considering the news that Yoshida was like, man, I want to go back to one of these darn trailers and be like, yo, bro, it does say
he was
for
like,
PC,
oh,
right?
please buy a PS5 to play the game. Like, what are you talking about, buddy?
This man, I mean, he did, and it's just like, I could swear that it did have, coming
It
to
does. It does say also coming to PC. Yeah.
also coming to PC. So I don't know
Yeah. It
what
did.
he was smoking when he said that. I know he saw this trailer. He approved it.
Presumably he signed off on it. Yeah. But
Presumably he signed off on it. Um, but it's just one of those things where it had me kind of laughing. Uh, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see though if that is just a thing that now signifies that maybe Square and Sony, maybe once that Microsoft deal gets done,
I would prefer them not to.
maybe they
But
go and buy
whatever,
them.
man. I don't know. Yeah.
Maybe they go and snatch them
Anyways.
up.
Yeah.
Anyways, you can find me at NinjaTrixta on Twitch, and I'm currently playing One Piece Odyssey and finishing up Sekiro. I'm on the last couple boss fights for that game, which has been a journey there. So we'll be doing that. And I don't know what I'm playing for February. I'm bouncing between Devil May Cry 5, Dragon's Dogma. Honestly, I wanted to do Hogwarts, but I do not like. I don't know if I want to potentially deal with what may or may not come into my chat. I'm not gonna
Okay.
lie, that game looks good. That game is legit solid.
You're talking in a pure vacuum of gameplay mechanics and how a game looks. You're saying it looks
Yeah,
good.
looks, looks, gameplay mechanics, actual like all the systems they've got integrated. Every time they've shown that game, it's actually looked better and better, and it started out looking good from the start. So, um, it's one of those things that something that takes you by surprise that you don't expect for it to do, and it just kind of builds
I
from
think
there.
I mean I don't want we probably shouldn't talk about it, but like the just because we're kind of close up, but I think that game is in the same kind of conundrum as like purchasing, let's say, Diablo 4 or something like that, right?
Yeah, yeah, kind of purchasing a Blizzard game during the peak.
Well, I mean it's not like it's magically
No,
better now, but yeah,
honestly,
yeah.
crazy thing is Overwatch 2 community has been pretty good right now. Some I wouldn't say they're on the rise, but I think they're coming out better than they were, back in the darker times. The darker
Well,
times.
I mean I don't know. Well, management has presumably changed, right?
Not the top, but yeah.
Well,
Not the top, but
yeah,
most of the
yeah.
people involved in those things are gone now, so
But still,
um
it's a slow change. But yeah.
slow change. But anyways,
Anyways,
we'll catch you next week for episode 156 of the Unknown Games podcast. Who knows? We might come back with Ehe or a special guest or something like that.
yeah,
So
that'd be fun. Or we should get an AI. We should get an AI host.
what? Sure.
It's
You give me
possible.
the
Did you hear about the AI VTuber that got banned
wait.
for
What?
accidentally? Yeah,
Oh,
go look it up.
I heard about that. They
Go
said
look it
like
up.
something
Yeah.
stupid, but so you
Well,
want us to
yeah.
get accidentally banned? Gotcha. I okay.
Well, no, as long as we
The
don't
end of the
feed it like
podcast.
the wrong prompts or whatever. Yeah, but yeah, it was gonna AI host.
There we go. Where we may or may not have an AI host. We'll check you
Okay.
later, everyone.
Cool. All right. Peace.
Peace.